I think you and I came up in a different time, right? When it wasn't okay to fail, right? Like it's like you would get a tape thrown at your head. Hi there, I'm Michael Carr. Welcome to Carrma's Ask an Expert series, where we talk to film and TV experts about challenges they've faced. Today, I'm speaking with Jen Pransky, head of content at Angel City FC here in Los Angeles, and formerly of Fox Sports. Jen is an incredible producer who has never ceased to amaze me with her determination and resolve. She has worked on all sports, from the Super Bowl to the Daytona 500 to World Cup soccer. Today, we're asking Jen, how do you lead a team through adversity? Let's check out the conversation. All right, cool. I'm here with Jen Pransky. Hi, Jen. How you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you.
I know. Jen and I used to work together back in the day a lot when we were at Fox Sports together. Jen is now head of content at Angel City Football Club here in Los Angeles, which is really exciting. And they're doing like incredible things. And just from a content perspective, that's like a whole nother conversation we could have, is just your content strategy there. But today, what we're talking about is how to lead a team through adversity. And the reason I want to talk to you about this, Jen, is because you have like seriously been in the trenches. Like, you know, I mean, I have seen you sleeping on floors of edit bays. I've seen you getting crazy, the sky is falling scenarios within a production. And of course, this is live broadcast, so not a whole lot of room for error, and deadlines are very real. How have you, led your team through real adversity with all the productions you've been on?
I think you have to start with just knowing you can do it.
Yeah.
If I don't think I can get something done, or I don't think that my team can get it done, it's going to be really hard to do that. So you start by, as much as you can, surrounding yourself with the right people. But even then, the most brilliant producer, brilliant editor, whatever it is, like, they can have a bad day, or we all can crack under pressure at any point. I've definitely had my times where I fell flat on my face. And then it is about like nurturing the culture and like creating that environment. You saw me sleeping in edit bays. So what does that tell you? That tells you that like I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done.
Yep.
And so that trickles down. It means that everybody who's working with us and on down, that's sort of like what's expected of them. And it's an unspoken way to set expectations. It's like, if I'm willing to do anything it takes to get this done, and you see me doing that, you see me putting in the work, then one, it's going to motivate you to do the same. And it's going to make you know that every time that it's hard for you, that like you've got someone who will empathize with that and is going through it with you. But when you are in the trenches, you have to be in that place with people that you trust and people that you know will have your back and fight for you. You do that through your own actions and showing people. Leading
by example and having the confidence right out the gate. Confidence comes from being able to do what it takes to get the job done. So when you talked about like your first step being just surrounding yourself with the right people, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming that's because that just sets you up for success from the get-go.
It does. And look, you're not going to always know right out the bat, like at the gate, especially when you're hiring. Hiring is such a difficult thing. You know, like you can be one person on your resume or in an interview, and then all of a sudden, like 6 months or a month into the job, you realize it's not for them, or they can't hack it, or it's not bringing them any sort of joy. So
or
it's
just not the right fit. And that happens a lot of times.
Cheesy old rock song that I heard the other day in the gym, that's, sometimes goodbye is a second chance.
Sometimes goodbye is a second chance.
Oh, yeah, I know that song. It's not Nickelback, but it's pretty damn close.
No. The other saying they have is like, you hire slowly and fire quickly.
Uh-huh.
And it's true. It's like you can't be afraid to move someone off a specific task or put them in a certain place, or at some point it is maybe that you let them go. You can't be afraid of that. You can't be afraid of that big change or making those tough decisions. That is also a way to like get through adversity, is that like it's making the tough call that maybe this exact situation needs to have a major change, and you can't be afraid of that.
That's mentorship too, right? Like what you're describing. That's like a whole nother conversation, a whole other aspect, but that's something you have always really embraced, is mentoring the next generation coming up underneath you and really teaching them the ropes. But having that empathy with a trainee or someone new coming up to say, you know what, this isn't right for you, but this is, and I'm going to help you get over here, and allowing them a different opportunity. Because a lot of people don't do that. They just, this isn't working out, bye.
I mean, there's so many levels to it. It's like, in some senses, you want to be able to like pull the floaties off and like throw someone into the deep end on something and see how it goes, right? To like give them those opportunities and make it okay to fail. And so you want to be clear that it's like, sometimes it's going to be okay to fail, and we're still going to give you that another chance. You're going to get to keep going, because maybe that's the only way you'll learn. But it is about being able to recognize recognize that point where it just isn't right.
You saying it being okay to fail brought something up in me, and like an emotional level. I won't get into the therapy, but just in that, I think you and I came up in a different time, right? When it wasn't okay to fail, right? Like it's like you would get a tape thrown at your head. Like broadcast was very different. Having people understand that's the only way they learn is from making mistakes. I think that's like so powerful for the next generation.
Every industry is different, right? When you're working in live television, your mistake could be seen by millions of people, and that's a big deal. And there should be some fear in that, right? Like, so that you do your double checks and you take everything very seriously. But there's a lot of parts of our job where it's like you make that mistake and everything is will be okay, and you can use that as a learning experience. I think a lot about our time at Fox Sports and Scott Ackerson, who was the producer of the Fox NFL Sunday show for a long time, and that I had the pleasure of working with. We'd be live on the air, and someone may make a mistake, and I was a person who would make those mistakes at times. It's sports, it's a live control room, there's yelling, there's swearing, none of it's like personal, but it still is a very intense
it's
sometimes
emotional.
uncomfortable
It's
situation.
emotional. Yeah.
Scott would always, like, if someone would go wrong in the control room, like obviously he'd get really angry because millions of people just saw your mistake on television, but then he would turn to you and he would say, what happened? And as long as you owned up to it and you said what it was and like maybe how you're going to fix it, then it was like, okay, fine. And he'd turn back and do the job. And then at the end of the day, you'd get the high five or the handshake or the hug or whatever it was. There's no grudge holding with that because like if you take ownership, take accountability and say what went wrong so they know that you know how to get better from it, then you're going to be fine. Just raising your hand and saying, my bad.
Yeah.
And even being that and doing that before someone asks, before someone else recognizes it. Like that goes so far with me. It's like people who are willing to admit the mistakes because it tells me that you have the confidence to get it right and that you want to get it right.
Yeah.
The right environment for me to be in and that I want to create for people is this concept of like, you would always rather go down swinging than going down looking. You might make a mistake or you might create a piece and it didn't work or kind of fell flat. But if you took a chance and you tried to do something new, the credit you get for that versus the blame you get for it not going well was always greater. And look, I think when you create that culture and you talk about things in that way, then that's how you get people. Again, it's about getting people to like run through the wall for you.
I just want to do two more things, I think, before we wrap up. One is I love stories, and especially your stories you've got some good ones. And I would love to hear about a time when everything went to hell and you faced like real adversity with a broadcast or a project or something, and then how you got through it or didn't get through it. Like just your experience, and then, how you potentially led your team, through that.
Well, have we had one? We've had to have
one.
Well,
the one I don't even want to remind you of it because I feel like you'll get mad. All right, I guess we have had one. There was one time where do you remember the UFC video we did where I was learning Cinema 4D and I was like, Jen, I'm going to do this awesome Cinema 4D stuff.
Oh yeah.
I just way miscalculated how long this stuff would take to render. And I had 3 machines rendering it, and it's still I literally ran a hard drive across LA, and I think I delivered it to Fox an hour before it aired.
Yeah, I do remember
that. Definitely was one on my end where I should have been more cognizant of the render time and stuff. I mean, it came out really cool though. I mean, it still worked, but I definitely made you nervous.
A personal story from my early days at Fox was when I was a BA, which is a broadcast associate, and on the pregame shows in the studio, and the BAs would be in charge of producing the graphics. So it's you with a graphic producer. I had been there with a veteran graphics operator for a while, and it was my first season doing it. And for a long time, I didn't realize it, but I was complacent. I was letting him do a lot of the work because the guy had been doing it for 10, 15 years or whatever it was. And here I am, the new little pipsqueak that's sitting next to him that he gets every couple of years. And then one day he's not there because he was sick and he was out. And so I got a graphics operator that hadn't done it very often. And what I didn't realize is that my main graphics operator was constantly doing stuff that I never knew. He was doing all these updates, and I never took the time to ask the right questions. Never took the time to go through hey, what are you doing every single time? Or literally noticing when his fingers would be moving and saying all right, what is it that you're doing? While we are a partnership and he doesn't need me to tell him to do everything, we should know each other's jobs in and out so that when exactly what happens when the new guy comes in, I can always pick things up. And this new guy comes in, and it was utter disaster of a day because there was all these things that I had no idea how to do, realize were even being done. Just little things like switching the quarter on the full screen graphics, or that he was constantly updating the scores, that we weren't just updating them right before halftime, things like that. It was completely my fault that day was a disaster. It had nothing to do with the fact that the guy next to me hadn't done that job very regularly. That's not his job, that's mine. While that was not a moment of adversity where I led my team through it. That was a day where I utterly failed and did not lead through it because I wasn't doing the work ahead of time. I was complacent about my job at that time. It was a real wake-up call. And from then on, like, I took it upon myself to like learn every in and out so that no matter who was sitting in that chair at any given time, or God forbid I had to punch a number myself, that maybe I knew how to do that. And I guess then the leadership moment out of that is then that's the message that I would deliver to like every single person after me.
Yeah, 100%. And just and like kind of like we talked about earlier, like a lot of times it's like you learn by getting burned, you know?
The next couple of years I had a new graphics operator, and it was really great. And we would have like a difference of opinion on something. And because I felt I was in a role of like, okay, I do know this job now and I'm confident and we have this sprint. I had to tell him, I was like, look, let me be wrong.
Yeah.
You have to be able to like have that voice and have the confidence to say like, if we screw this up, it's going to be on me and I know that.
I'd love to finish up with, how do you motivate your team when everything went wrong and you in your head kind of know like, oh man, this is tough. You know, how do you find it in you to really rally the team?
I think you have to go back to the goal and the mission of whatever the task is or the project is, right? So for every bad day we have, or when we get to the end of the season, or we've like on the soccer side, it's like, oh, you've lost a lot of games or you're not making the playoffs, or on our team when we just feel so burned out because we're on video number 2000 of the year, whatever it is.
Wow.
And everyone's like, I have no creative juices left, or I don't know how to get through it. If you have shared goals and a shared mission, that is a positive one. When we do things well and when we show up, it's empowering a community. That really brings you back to center, lifts you back up and say, okay, this just isn't about me. We have that luxury that a lot of what we do is externally facing, and it's about empowering communities and building things outside of us. Mm-hmm. That's not always the case in every job you have, right? Sometimes a job is just a job. But if you can build it, come back to a goal or a mission about connecting it to the other people that are around you. And it's about like, look, we are here to support each other. We're here to lift each other up. And if we fail, we're going to fail together. And if we win, we're going to win together. I get really mad when people take sole blame for stuff. I remember back in high school, we'd like lose a basketball or volleyball game and like there'd be one player off like sulking because they felt they lost the game for us. I'm like, excuse me, you did not lose the game for us. Like, yeah, you missed that last shot, but like the rest of the team put us in the position for that one shot to matter. It takes a village to win. It takes a village to lose.
Yeah.
Connect yourself to people around you. Pull each other out of it. Find a way to realize you're doing it not just for you, but like for somebody else's happiness. And I think that gets you through. And you only can do that if you create, back to what we originally talked about, you create an environment where you feel connected to the people around you and surround yourself with those kind of people.
Well, this was awesome. Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. That was like a fantastic conversation.
My pleasure.